Hey guys, welcome to a new Python tutorial. Today we're going to build a web application with Flask, Google Sheets, the Twitter API and Heroku. So you will learn a lot here. And this is going to be kind of a live coding tutorial where I start from scratch, implement the app and deploy it to Heroku at the end. All the things and services we are going to use here will be completely free. So at the end we will have a running live application without spending money. And if you like these kind of tutorials, please leave me a like and subscribe to the channel. Then I know that I can make more tutorials in this format. And now let me show you the app first. So recently I've noticed that successful people on Twitter don't post their tweets directly in Twitter, but instead they schedule all their tweets with a third-party service. And there are a bunch of services out there which are great, but they all cost money. And I'm not super active on Twitter. I just post every now and then when I publish a new video or just feel for it. So I thought I don't want to spend any money on this, but it would still be nice to automate such things. And that's why I'm building this tweet scheduler here. And the final app looks like this. So here we have a basic front end with a list of all the tweets that were already sent out. And then we have this form here, so I can add a new message, hello Twitter friends, and then schedule the time. So I put in the date and the time in this format, and then a password that allows me to add the tweet. And now if I hit add tweet, then this will be updated. So it got added to the list, and here we also see you have one tweet scheduled. And yeah, and then in the background additionally we have a worker script that will continuously run and check if this time has passed, and if this is true then it will send out this tweet to my Twitter account. And yeah, so this will be a Flask app here. And then in the background, we are using Google Sheets, a spreadsheet to store the data. So here, if I refresh this, then we see we have the new tweet here, and we see this is not yet done. And then, for example, if I go back and delete this again and go back to the spreadsheet and refresh this, then we see that it got updated here too. So this works. And this is a app that's live right now. So I'm actually using this. These here are my last tweets on Twitter. And this is deployed on Heroku. So yeah, so that's it. So let me briefly show you all the technology again that we're going to use. So we're using Flask. Then we are using the Twitter API and Tweepy to use the API in Python. Then we are using the Google Sheet API. And we're using Heroku to deploy our app for free. So let's start. So let's set up our Flask app. So let me create a new directory. So let's call this tweet scheduler, and let's go into this directory. And then let's have a look at the Flask documentation. So here we see the installation guide. So what we want to do is to create a virtual environment. So this command here with the virtual env module. This is already included in Python 3, so you don't have to install anything. And this will create a virtual environment with this name, venv. And this takes a couple of seconds, and then we can activate it. So we say dot, and then this depends on your operating system. So on Mac and Linux, it's this command, and on Windows, it's this command. So I'm on a Mac here, so I activate it with this command, and then we see the virtual env name in the beginning. And then what we can do here is install Flask with pip. So we say pip install Flask. And this takes a couple of seconds. And now we have Flask. So now let's see, we are done with the installation. So now we can go to the quick start tutorial and create this minimal Flask app. So in here, let me open up the editor and don't save. So this was an old one. So let's create a new one. This should be empty. Yes. So here we only have the virtual env directory that we just created. So let's create a new directory, not in here. So in the base directory, and let's call this app, and then let's create a file main.py, and then let's paste in the minimal Flask app. And so let me open up the terminal in here too, and I think I have to activate the virtual env here too. So venv bin activate. And then what we have to do is, let's have a look. We have to export the Flask app. So we say export Flask app, and then we have the app/main.py in our case. And then we can run Flask run. And this will open up a development server. And here we get a warning. This is a development server. Do not use it in production. So we will take care of this later. And for now, let's simply open up this in our browser. And then we see this is working. So this is at localhost 5000. And now we have our Flask app. So let's continue. So now what we want to do here is at the main page, we want to show the list, a list of all the tweets that we have. So let's call this tweet list. And as I said, we are using Google Sheets for this. So I posted a tutorial about how we can set up the Google Sheets API yesterday. So please check that out if you don't know how to do this. But basically what we need is we need to create an app in the Google Developer Console and then activate the APIs and create a file with the credentials. And I already have the credentials here, so I will simply move them into this directory. And then we are using gspread for this, so we have to install it. So we say pip install gspread, and then we can set up our Google Sheet. So we want to import gspread here, and then we create a service account by saying gc equals gspread dot service account, and then the name here we have to use the file name equals with the credentials file. So this is called gsheet._credentials.json. And then we can access a spreadsheet by saying sh equals gc.open by key. And then what we want to do is, so here I already have a spreadsheet, so let's create another one from scratch to show you how we can do this. So let's create a new one, and let's call this tweet scheduler 2. And then in the first row, I define the names for the columns. So here I have the time, then I have the message, and then I have a variable done, so if it was already sent out or not. And then, so let's do one example and let's put in one date. So the year, then the month and the day, and then a space and the time. So let's say 20:00, so at 8 p.m. And so it has to be in this format. And then let's say just hello world, and done is 0. So we use a 0 for false and the 1 for true. And then we have to do one more thing. So we go into this credentials JSON, and then we have to grab the client email and copy this. And then in our spreadsheet, I have to go to share and share it with this service account. And then we have access from our Python files. And now this should be working. So now we can close this, and now we need the key. So the key is this one from the URL, this part. So let's grab this and let's paste this in here. So now we have the spreadsheet open, and now we can access the worksheet by saying worksheet equals sh dot sheet 1 is the default one. And then here in the tweet list, what we want to do is we want to get the tweet records by saying tweet records equals, and then we can use the gspread API and call, no, we have to use the worksheet and call, it's called get all records. So this is a list of dictionaries with all the entries. So let's print this and let's save this, and then let's start the Flask server again. And now if we go to the site and hit enter again and refresh this, then this should print the entries. And yeah, so here it printed the records, so it's working. So now we can access the spreadsheet, and here we see we have a list, and then we have a dictionary. So only one dictionary right now because we have only one entry. So let's display this in our front end. So what we want to do here is, instead of saying return hello world, we want to render a template. So we have to import this from Flask. So we say from Flask import render template. And then we want to loop over this tweet records. And I will create a simple small class for this. So let's call this class tweet. And here we will have an init with self, and this gets the same parameters, message, time, and then done, and also a row index. So this is kind of the ID for our tweet. And then we simply store this here. So we say self.message equals message, self.time equals time, self.done equals done, and self.row index equals row index. And then here we create an empty list with all the tweets, and then we loop over this tweet records. So for this, we want to access the index and also the tweet. So we say for index and tweet in enumerate. So this is a nice built-in function that will give us both. And then we say tweet records, and it should start at index 2. And I will show you why this is 2 in a second. And then here we create a tweet by saying tweet equals the tweet. And here we use dictionary unpacking with double asterisks. So 2 stars and then tweet. And then also row index equals index. So this works because our tweet has the same parameters as we can find here. So we have message, we have time, and we have done. And if it has not the same, the exact same name, then this will not work and this will crash. So we have to be careful here. But in our case, the parameters have the same name as in our spreadsheet. But then additionally, we need the row index. So we put it in here. And this should create the tweet then. And this starts at 2 because if we go back to the spreadsheet, then we see that this is row number 1 and this is row number 2 with the first entry. So that's why we want to start at index 2. And then we want to append this. So we say tweets.append tweet. And then what we want to do here is we want to say return render template. And then the name of the template. So this is called base HTML. And this gets 2 parameters. So this will get the tweets equals tweets. And this will also get the number of open tweets which are not yet done. So n open tweets equals n open tweets. And we have to create this. So we say n open tweets equals, and here we can use a nice little Python trick. So we say sum and then 1 for tweet in tweets, and then if not tweet dot done. So this is list comprehension syntax. So for each tweet in our list that is not done, we add 1. So this is the number of open tweets, and then we give this to the template, and we have to create this. So inside the app directory, we have to create another directory which we call templates. So it has to be this name. And then we create the file base h.html. And I already have this here. So yeah, this is the base template. So if I open up this here, then we see that here we have the headline and then an empty form, and then later we will add the list like here. So this is our starting point. I will provide this on GitHub, so I will put the link in the description. So now let's open this and copy the content. So here I grab this and then I paste it inside this this file, and then if I save it, then so I will not explain this in detail. This is just basic HTML syntax here. I'm using Bootstrap, by the way, to have a little bit of a nicer styling. Then here I define some styles of my own. And then down here we have the actual content. So here we have the h1 tag, welcome to tweet scheduler. Then here we have a to-do for the number of tweets. So we can do this right now. And then we also want to implement the form and the list of the tweets. So let's start with the number of tweets here. So for this we use a let's do an h3 tag, And then here, let's say you have, and then this is called templating language. So this has double curly braces, and then we can access the parameter with the exact name. So this is called Append Tweets. And then you have this number of tweets scheduled. And then let's create the list of all the tweets. So down here, what we want to have is, we want to have a unordered list. And inside this, again, we are using templating language. So curly braces and then a %sign. And then we can use a for loop. So we can say for tweet in tweets. And again, this has to be the same name as the parameter. And let's copy this and paste it in here. So down here, we say end for. So this is the end of the loop. And then in here, we put in the list elements. So we say li. And then again, templating language. So we use double curly braces. And then let's display tweet.time and copy this and paste this. And then a space and a colon, and then the tweet.message. So now if we save this, then let's go back to the server and refresh this. And I think I have to restart the server again. So let's stop it and let's say Flask run again. And then let's go to the site and refresh it. And then our template should be displayed. So yeah, so here this worked. So we have the message, we have one tweet here, and we also have one list element. And this is the form which we will have to implement then. And yeah, so this works for now. Very good. And let's improve this a little bit. So let's go to our spreadsheet and let's insert another test tweet which is already sent out. So tweet done equals true. And then we want to cross this out. So here we say in templating language, I think it's %, and then we can say if tweet.done. And then what we want to do is we want to say a strike tag. And then again, we say %and if, and then we copy this and paste it down here and then put the closing strike tag. Oh, sorry, this was autocomplete, which was wrong. So now we striked it, or we crossed it out if tweet.done equals true. So again, let's go to the home page here and refresh this. And then we see that we have a second tweet, but it's not crossed out. So let me check this. We have to do another % here and another one here, and also here, and also here. And then save it and run it. Or maybe let's refresh our server. So let's say Flask run. Now let's refresh it. And now we see that it's crossed out. So this works too. So this is a tweet that was already sent out. And yeah, so now we have the list of the tweets. So now what we want to do is, the next thing is to add a form where we can add the tweets. So let's go back to our main file. And then what we want to do is to define a second route. So for this, let's copy this and paste it down here. So let's call this /tweet. And then this should be a post method. So we say methods equals and then post. And then let's call the function add_tweet. And here what we want to do is we want to access the form and then add this to our spreadsheet. So let's implement the form first. So in our base HTML, we have to add the form. So we say form, and then let's give this an ID. So ID equals form, so we can access it. And the action should be equals /tweet, so the same as the route that we just defined. And the method should be a post method. And then in this form, let's do some styling. So let's create a div and let's get this a class, and this is called flex:6. So this is because we are using Bootstrap. I'm not going into detail here, so this is just for styling. You can also just don't do this. And then what we want to do is, let's go back to the final app. So we want to have 4 input fields and then 1 submit button. So let's do this. So we have 1 for the message, 1 for the time, and 1 for the password. So let's say we have an input and a closing, input, and then let me quickly think. So no, we don't need this one. So now what we want to do, we want to give this an ID. So we say ID equals title. And so this is just for styling. Then we want to say the class equals form control. And then this is a type which is text, and then it should be have a name, so then we can access it from our Flask app, and the name is message. And we also want to give a placeholder here, so let's say placeholder equals and then add message. So this is the first input. So let's copy this. So let's do another one and another one and a third one. So in the second one, this is the date. So we have the name. Let's say this is called time. And then we want to add the placeholder. Let's say add time. And then let's show the user in the format we want to have. So we want to have years, then month, and then the day, and then a space, and then the hours, a colon, the minutes, a colon, and then the seconds. So this is the format we want to have. So now let's also use a password. So this is just for security, but actually this is really bad for security. So don't actually do this if you're showing this to other people. But yeah, just for fun, we want to have a password, and then let's say enter password. And then the last one, this is the submit button. So we give it the ID submit. So this is just for styling, and the class equals button, and the type here equals submit, and the value. So here we don't have a placeholder, here we have a value, and this is called add tweet. So now we have our input form ready. So now let's save this, and let's return hello world for now, and let's save this and have a look if our form looks correct. So let's clear this and let's call Flask run again and go to the website and reload this. And then we see, yeah, we have the form the way we want it. And now what we have to do is to implement the add tweet method. So what we want to do here is we want to access these three forms. So we say message equals, and then we have to import request from Flask, and then we can say equals request dot form, and then the name of this form. So in this case, the name was message. And then we do the same with the time and with the password. So we say time equals this, and PW equals this. So I called this PW here too. So PW, and then what we want to do here is, so first let's do some safety checks if this was entered. So we say if not message, then we simply return error. Then, well, let's say error no message, and here if not time, and then return error no time. And one more time for the password, if not PW error wrong password. So let's also check this. If, let's say, if not password, or password is not equal to, let's give it the password 12345. So again, this is really bad code for security, but for the simple project, it's okay. And then we return the error, and otherwise we can go ahead. So we have to do one more safety check for the message, because Twitter only allows tweets with a length of 280 signs or characters. So we check if length, and then let me close this. If length of message is greater than 280, we return error and say message too long. And then what we want to do here is, Now we have to take care of the time, because right now we have it in a string format, and in a string format, yes, and we want to check if this is actually a valid date, and also if the date is not in the past. So for this, we are using a little, or we are implementing a little helper function. So let's call this define get date time. And this will get the date time as a string. And for this, we are using date time, the date time module. So we can say from date time, we want to import date time. And then let's implement this function here. So here we want to get the date time object. So date time object equals none in the beginning. And we also, we also define a error code. So error code equals none. And then we wrap this in a try except block. So we say try, and then we say our datetime object equals, and then we use the datetime module, and this has a function that is called string p time, and then here it has to have the datetime string, and then the format in which we want it. So let's Google this. So let's say Python datetime from string. Let's see if this is helpful. So yeah, so it's basically something like this. So here we have to give it the string. So also didn't copy it. So let's grab this again and paste it in here. So in our case, what we want, so we can see we have the Y for the year, and then we want I think you can also use a capital Y, so I'm using a capital Y, and then a %m for the month, and then another dash and a %d for the day. So this is the date, and then we want to have a space, and then we want to have the hours, the months, the hours, the minutes, and the seconds. So I think this should be correct. So now we convert this to a datetime object, and if this is not in the correct format, then this will produce a value error. So it will raise the value error. So we catch this here by saying except value error as E, and then let's say our error code equals, let's use an F string, and then we say error, and additionally the actual error here. And then if this worked, then what we also want to do here is we want to check if our date is in the future. So we say if datetime object is not none, then we have to be careful here, because when I'm running this locally, then we can check this with date time now, but when I'm running this script or this Flask app on Heroku, then this time of the server at Heroku might have a different time. So what we want to do here is we want to use the UTC time. So we say, let's Google this, UTC time. So the coordinated universal time, which is the same for everybody, and we can access this in Python. So we can get this by saying date time dot UTC now. And what we have to do is we have to convert this to our time. So we call this now time in Central European time equals, and then we have to compute the offset. So we see that the UTC time is 4 p.m. at the moment, and if I Google for CET, then we see that it's 6:18, so it's plus 2 hours. So in order to convert this back, we can say plus time delta. We also have to import this, so we can import this from date time and say time delta. And then we say time date delta and say hours equals 2. Then if we do this, we always have the time in CET time, because for me I'm doing the input in my local time, but on the server it might be different. So that's why we have to use this little computation here. So now we have the date time in the Central European time, and now we can check if not date time object is greater than now time CET, then this is not in the future. Then we say error code equals error, and then time must be in the future. And then we return the date time object and the error code. And so this is our helper function. And now down here, so we have our safety check. So our message is valid right now. So now let's parse the time to a datetime object by saying datetime object and error code equals get how did we call it? Get datetime. And then as a parameter, we use the time. And then we check if our error code, so if error code is not none, then we return this. So this is a string, so let's return the error code. And otherwise, all of our inputs are valid. So then we can append this to the spreadsheet. So we say worksheet dot append row, and then we give this a new tweet. So let's create this. So let's say tweet equals, and then here we have to create a list with the same elements as here. So first we have the time, then the message, and then done. So let's say we want to have the time object as string again. Then we want to have the actual message and then a 0 because it's not yet done. And then we append this to the spreadsheet. And then what we want to do, we want to redirect the user to the index page. So we say return redirect and then to the route just slash. And we also have to import this from Flask, import redirect. There it is. So yeah, this should be the implementation of the add tweet method. So let's restart the server again and hope that everything is working. So let's close this and this and this and refresh it. And then let's add the time. So let's say hello Twitter friends, then this time and this password, and then add tweet. So yeah, so it worked. So here we have our new tweet. Let's go to the spreadsheet and it's already in there. So let's check if we are not putting in these values, if we get an error. So here, yes, we have error, no message, and hello Twitter friends. So let's put in a time in a different format. So let's use slashes here. Then we also get a error. So this is working. Now let's use a different password. And here we have error, wrong password. So this is working. And let's check a time which is not in the future. So let's use 2019. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then we see error, time must be in the future. So this is working too. You have 2 tweets scheduled. This is also working. So one more thing that I want to improve, I want to reverse this list. So the newest entry should be on top. So for this, we can simply say tweets equal or tweets dot reverse. So this is a built-in function which will reverse our list. And then it should be the other way around. So now what we want to do is to implement a function to delete the tweet again. So for this, let's create another route and paste this in here, and we call this delete. And we will also have to specify the ID of the message that we want to delete. So for this, we are using the row index. So we say slash, and then it's this syntax. So it's int and then colon and then the row index. And then we call this delete tweet, and this has the parameter row index. And here we are using the spreadsheet again and say worksheet dot and call delete rows. So again, these spreadsheet API methods are functions which I explained in the last tutorial, so please check that out, or simply check out the official documentation for GSpread. You can find this here. So it's a very nice API, so very straightforward. So here we want to delete the rows with only one index, so this one. And then we also want to redirect to the home screen like this, and then we are done. And this is our delete route. And of course, we also have to implement this in our HTML, so we have to add a delete button. So down here. So let's use an H tag for this. And then let's call this delete. And then here we use ID equals delete. Again, this is for styling so that the button is red. And then here the important thing is the href, and this equals, and then here we have to use the same route as we just implemented for our function. So it's /delete and then /, and then again templating language, and here we can access tweet.row_index, and then it should access this route. So let's refresh this. Or again, I have to refresh or restart the server. So let's clear this and let's say Flask run again. And then refresh. Okay, we have an error here. So let's say what crashed. So tweet is undefined. In our template, of course, we still have to be inside this loop. So let's copy this and let's paste this in here. And this has to be also inside each list element. So now let's clear this and run this again. And then open up the app again. And now we see we have the delete button. And let's refresh this. So this should still be the same. And now we see, let's add one first. So let's hello Twitter friends 2, and let's say this date in the future and password, and then the new tweet is at the top, so the reversing worked. And now if we click delete, then it gets deleted again. So this worked, and also in the spreadsheet it's gone. So yeah, so now I think our Flask app is done. So the front end works and the functionality with the tweet storing and updating works. So now what we want to do here is, as a second thing, we want to have a background script which runs continuously and checks for the time of our tweet, and if we reach this time, then it should tweet this out. So for this, we can stop the server and let's create a worker script here in the base directory. So let's call this tweet.py. And here, what we want to do, of course, we also need to access the spreadsheet, so we can copy this. So we import gspread. And then we also have to use the Twitter API. So for this, we have to go to developer.twitter.com, and then I think you have to apply for a developer account, but there you just have to fill out some basic stuff, and then it takes about 10 minutes usually, and then you have an account. And then let's go to apps, and then you want to create an app. So I already did this here. So what you have to do is you have to give it a name and a description and also a URL. And for this, you can simply, I recommend that you create a GitHub repo for this and then put in the URL of your repo. And then you also have to fill out this, tell us how this app will be used. So you have to write 100 characters where you just say, I write a simple script which should update tweets from a spreadsheet, and that's okay. And then you can create this. And then once you have your app, then what you want to do is you go to keys and tokens and then create these keys. So you will get 4 different tokens. So this is the API key, the secret key, the access token, and the access token secret. And then what we want to do here is, so we want to install Tweepy. So this nice library, which makes it very easy for accessing the Twitter API. So let's go read the docs and then installation. And there we see we just have to type in pip install Tweepy. So let's do this. And then we have to, let's go to the next side. So now we can use it like so. So let's grab this and paste it in here. So now what we need these 4 keys that we create with our app, and then we want to store this in a .env file. So let's create this. And then I already have this here, so I simply copy and paste this from my app. So now we have this in this .env file, and then we want to load this, and for this we have to install one more package. So we say pip install install python -.env, and then we clear this, and then we can import, we can say from .env we want to import load env, and then also call this here, so load env, and this allows us to access these tokens from our .env file. So let me copy this and paste this here. So we have the consumer key, and then what we can do is we can import OS, or from OS import environ, and then we say this is environ, and then the key is the same as our variable consumer key, and the same for the other 3 tokens. So this one and this one and this one, and then this is the consumer secret, this is the access token, and this is the access secret. And then we have to use these here. So this is our consumer key in capital letters, the consumer secret, and then the access token, and then the access secret. So we are doing this from with the .env file because these are secret keys which you never want to push to your GitHub repo, and also not to Heroku. So I will show you how we access these keys in or environment variables in Heroku in a second. So Now we have the Twitter API and also the Google Sheet API. So now let's run this file to see if everything is working by saying python tweet.py. And then we will have an error. So from .env import load, I think it's called, let me Google this. Python.env. So this one, from .env import load _.env and then load.env. So that's the one. And then let's run this again. And here environ, yes, I'm using parentheses here, but instead I have to use square brackets, of course. So here and here and here and here, and the same here and here and here. So again, clear this, run this, and now we don't get an error. So this works, loading all these environment variables and setting up our two APIs. So now what we want, let's create two more variables here. So let's say one is the interval, and this is, let's say 60. So every 60 seconds we want to run our script, and debug equals 1. So it's true because we are in debug mode right now, because maybe in production we want to have a different interval value. And now let's get this here. So let's say interval equals environ and then brackets and then interval. And this is a string in our .env file. So we want to convert this to a int, and we say debug equals and then environ and the variable name debug equals 1 as a string. So if this is 1, then we are in debug mode. And then what we want to do is we want to have a main function, define main, and we say if name equals main. So if name equals underscore main, then we want to run this. So we say main, and now here in our main function we want to have an endless loop. So we say while, and then while true, and then let's simply print hello, and then let's sleep. So for a couple of seconds. So for this we say we import the time module, and then for now we simply say time.sleep2. And now let's clear this and run this, and now every 2 seconds this should print hello, hello, hello. So this is working. And now here we don't want 2 seconds, so here we want to have our interval. And now here what we want to do here is we want to access our spreadsheet. So we say the same as in our main file. Here, where do we have it? The tweet records equals worksheet.getAllRecords. And now we have to get the time at this moment on the server. And for this we say we have to import date time from datetime import datetime and time delta, the same as here. And then we use the same syntax as here. So we have to apply our time delta. And this is our now time. And then let's log this here. So we are running this on the server. So that's why printing is not so nice here. So that's why I'm using the logging module. So we import logging, and then we call the basic config right after loading. So we say logging.basic config, and then we want to say level equals logging.info, and let's set up a logger. So let's say logger equals logging.getLogger, and then the name of this file. And now here, let's simply log this. So let's say logger.info, and then let's use an f string, and then what do we want to print? The length, the number of tweets we have. So we say length of tweet records, and this number of tweets found at, and then the date time. So we say now time c at t, and for this we want to have the time, and then let's run this for now and see if this is working. So let's clear this, and let's change this interval to 2 now again. So now let's run our script. And now we see we have 3 tweets found at this time, and then in the next loop again. So this is working. So now we want to iterate over this tweet records and have a look if the time is now correct. So if it's ready to send our tweet, and so for this we are using the same loop as here. So we use this for index and tweet in enumerate tweet records, and we want to start at row number 2. So this is the current row of our tweet. And then we access all of these variables. So remember, this is a dictionary here. So we say tweet message. This is our message. Then we get the time string, and then we want to see if this is done. So let's say time as string equals tweet with the key time, and then done equals the tweet with the key done. And then let's convert this to a datetime object again, the same as we are doing it here. And now we don't need the try block, or we shouldn't need this because it should always be in the correct format if we store it over the app. So if we manually put in some data, then this might still crash, but let's say this is okay here. And then let's check if not done. Then we will have to check if the time is passed right now. So we say the same as we are doing it here. Now time CET. Sorry, this is the current time where we want to log current time. Current time. and here current time, and here this is the time during this iteration. And then what we want to check if the date time of our object is now smaller than the now time in CT time. So then this should be tweeted. So we say logger.info, and then this should be tweeted. And then what we have to do is call the API. So let's say try let's just say accept pass and accept pass. So let's do nothing for now. And let's simply check if this is working for now. So let's clear this and let's run this. And then we get an error. Datetime string is not defined. Date, and we only called this time string. So again, let's run this. And then we see we have 3 tweets found at the current time that it's here in my place. And now if we go to the app, so this is the, sorry, right now we also have to open up or to start the server again. So I think if I hit enter, yeah, the server is not running. So let's say Flask run. Oh yeah, I have to export Flask app equals, and then it's called main app slash main.py. So Flask run again. And now we have the Flask app running. So now we can type in a message. So let's say hello new message and the time. So for this, if we have a look, so it's 1845. So let's say we want to do 1855. So let's do 1850, and the date is the May 16th. So this is correct. So now if we add this tweet, oh yeah, it's complaining that it's not in the future. So let's say 56, and then we will have to wait. So let's go to the script here and let's wait until we have 55 and then minute 56. Yeah, so now the time has passed and we can see that it prints this should be tweeted. So this works. So now our script to tweet works. And now as a last thing is what we have to do is to actually tweet this out. And then what we want to do here is we say if not debug. So I only want to do this if I'm not in debug mode. Or let's leave this away, sorry. Let's say API dot, or let's do a comment here that we might want to do this. And then let's say API. So here we have the Tweepy API, and it's super easy to tweet with this API. We simply have to say the API dot update status, and then the message. And then what we also have to do is we have to update this in our worksheet. So we say worksheet dot update underscore cell, and then the index, and then so this is the row, the current row, and then the column is the column number 3. So this is the row with the done entry. We want to set this to 1 now. So now it's done. So this is what we have to do here. And now let's say accept exception as E. And then we want to log this. Let's say logger.info and then F, and then, or let's say logger.warning. I'm not sure if it's logger.warn or logger.warning. Logger.warn Python. Logger.warning. And then we want to do exception during tweet, and also the actual exception message like this. So now we log this, and then we don't need this anymore. So now this should be okay. So this is our worker script now. And let's clear this, and let's run this. Or first, let me go back to the web app again. So let's delete this and this, or let's delete all of them except this one. And now what we want, now what should happen is once our script is running, then it should notice that this time has passed and it's not yet done. Then it should send out the tweet, and it should also update our database. So let's do this. Let's run this. And then this should be tweeted. So let's check or let's first refresh our app here. Then this is crossed out, so this is a good sign. So now let's go to our Twitter profile and refresh this page. And then we see hello new message. So it worked. That's great. So let me delete this here quickly. Delete, and let's check our spreadsheet. So here we have a 1. So everything's working. It's awesome. So let's stop our worker scripts. And now as a last thing to do is to set this up as an app for Heroku. And for this, we have to install the Heroku command line interface. So let's say Heroku clip, and for this you can download the installer and install it or use it with Homebrew. And then when you have this working, let me clear this. Then you can say Heroku -- version to see if you have it installed. And here I do have it. And then what we want to do is we want to log in to our Heroku. So Heroku login -e. So I want to stay in the console. If you don't do this, then this will open up the browser. And then of course you need to have an account. So I will put in the email and then the password. And then it says that I'm logged in. So now what we want to do is to create a new project, a new Heroku app. So we say Heroku create, and then the name, let's call this tweet scheduler. This will create a new app. So name is already taken. Let's call this 123. Try it like this. So now this works. So now we will get a live app at this link. And of course, we still have to push it to Heroku. So what we want to do here is, let's go to our Heroku site and dashboard and check if this is working. So here I have to sign in too. So here we see we have our new app. And what we want to do here is we want to go to settings and put in the config variables. So, and here what we want to do is we want to put in the same config variables that we have here, because we don't push this file to Heroku. So let's do it like this. Consumer key. And as an interval, we want to have 60 seconds here in this case. And later I might increase this, but for this tutorial, let's set this to a low. No, let's set this only to 20 seconds. So then that we can immediately see the changes. And then we say debug equals 0. I think we didn't use this, but yeah, let's type it in too. So now we have our config variables. And now what we also want to do is we want to tell Heroku which Python runtime we want. And for this, we have to create a file runtime.txt. And here we say Python, let's say 3.7.6. So that's the only thing that goes into this file. And then, as you might remember, when we use Flask run, then we will get this warning that this is only a development server. So instead, it's good practice to use a production-ready server. And for this, I think the most popular is G Unicorn or Green Unicorn. So we have to install this by saying pip install G Unicorn. And then what we want to do here is, instead of running this as a Flask app, we want to create a file that we call wsgi.py. And in here, so this has to be in the base directory. So we say from app.main, we import app, and then we say if underscore name equals main, then we want to run our app. So we say app.run. And then also for Heroku, we have to create a proc file. So let's create a new file here. So no, not here, in the base directory, and then all in capital, and then proc file. And here, what goes in here is we have to tell Heroku what we want to run. So we have one web app. So we say web : and then we say G unicorn, and then WSGI : app. So this is the name of this file and the name of our app. And we also want to have one worker, so our background worker. And for this, we say this is Python tweet.py. So now Heroku knows that we have one web application and one background worker. And now what we also need, of course, is a requirements.txt file. So for this, we can say pip freeze, and then the greater sign, and then requirements.txt. This will put in all the things that we installed with pip into this file. And we also want to have a .git ignore, where we want to put in some things. So for example, we don't want the .env file. And we also don't want to have the venv directory. And now we need to initialize a Git repo for Heroku. So we say git init. This will initialize our repo. And then let's try our app locally. So let's say Heroku local and see if this is working for now. So this will create a web application at this port. So let's open up this. And then we see that it's working too, and we also see that our background worker is running and logging things. So now it's running with a proper HTTP server, so with GUnicorn. So now we have this. So now we have to add this, of course. So let me quickly, I don't have this installed. So let me quickly check what I have all in my repo. So I also don't want this. So I'm putting this in the git ignore. So like so. And we also, actually, you don't want to push this file to Heroku, at least not to the from the master branch like here, because you might also want to push this to your normal GitHub repo. So let's put this into our git ignore 2, and then I will show you how we can still get this to Heroku. So let's clear this and say git status. So now this is working. So now we can say git add dot, so everything, and then git commit with a message initial commit, and then this should be fine. And now we have to push it to Heroku, and for this we have to say git push Heroku master, and yeah, this is what I expected. So we also have to define the remote repo. So let's have a look at Heroku overview, deploy. Here we have a little guide how we can do this. So here we have to say we did git init, and then we have to say that this is our remote repository. And so let's paste this in here. And then let's push this to Heroku one more time. And now this is building our Python app. It's telling us that it's using Python 3.7.6 because we specified the runtime. And then if everything is working, then this should install all the dependencies from the requirements.txt file. And let's wait a couple of seconds. Now it's done. It's about 50 megabytes. And it's launching, and here we have our live app. So it's still computing, and verifying deploy done. So let's open up this app, this URL, and let's cross application error. I think it's because we don't have the credentials file, and that's why it's crashing. Let's Google this. So let's say Heroku logs. I think I just have to type in Heroku log -tail. Build logs, blah, blah, blah. Here, Heroku logs -n. So let's run this. And here we get the error. So host tweet, blah, blah, blah. App crashed. Dino. Worker failed to boot. So here it is, file not found error. No such file or directory. So that's exactly what I said. So we have to get this to Heroku 2, of course. And so one way would be to put all of these credentials into variables as well, and then load this from the variables and put this into a JSON object. But I found another solution on Stack Overflow. So what we can also do is to create a secret branch. So we can say git branch, git checkout -b, so a new branch, and let's call this secret branch. And then we want to git add, and then the g sheet credentials.json. And in this one, we don't want to ignore it. So now we have added it, and now we want to git commit -m add credentials.json. We also want to say, or let's say git add all, and then git commit add credentials JSON. So now we added this. Now let's say git push, and then also from Heroku to Heroku, and then from our secret branch to the master branch. And now it's building again. We already have this installed, so it should be faster now. And now let's go to our app again and to the live app. So where do we have it? I think I closed it. So let's go to this website again and see if this is. And now we see that our app is live. That's great. So now let's add one message and let's say hello friends, and as a time we want to say today and at 19:25, and then 1 2 3 4 5. So this should be any second now. So now it's 25. I don't know if this was fast enough. So now we said every 20 seconds, I guess, right? Let's refresh this. It's 5, 16, 19, 25. So this should work. So let's have a look at the log files again. What is happening? We only have the web app. So I think our worker is not running. So let me say what we have to do here is, I guess we have to scale our worker up. So we say Heroku ps.:scale, and then worker equals 1. Scaling dynos, now running worker. And now let's go to this app again and refresh. And now it worked. So now our tweet is crossed out. So let's go to Twitter and let's refresh my page. And then we see hello Twitter friends. So this worked. Again, let me delete this. And let's check if the entry is here. So here we have it. And let's do one more try. So now let's do another one. Hello Twitter friends again. And at this time, so now let's say 19:28 and the password. And now let's add this. So here it got added. Now 19:28 has passed. So let's refresh this. And we see it's crossed out. And if we go and refresh this, then we see hello Twitter friends again. So yeah, it's working. And again, here we have one more entry. So now our app is live and up and running. And now there's one more problem with the free tier from Heroku, because if we have inactivity for 30 minutes or longer for this app, so if no GET request is coming in, then our app goes to sleep, and this means that our worker will not run, so our endless loop will not run. But I came up with a little trick so that we have two options. We can either upgrade our tier. I think it's $7 per month, which is still fine, but we can use a little trick. So we can use a cron job. And for this, we can go to cron-job.org and schedule a cron job. So let's use the English version English side for you. So here you have to sign up. So this is also free. Then you have to sign in, and then here you can see latest events. So this is for my other Heroku app, which is already live and running. And then we go to cron jobs and schedule a new one. And then here we have to put in this URL and paste it in here. Sorry. And the title is Twitter scheduler. And then we can schedule it. So we can say every 50 minutes, or in our case, let's do every 30 minutes. Let's do every 50 minutes. So this is fine. So this will send a GET request. Let's create this first. And let's, so I think I already have one with this name. So let's edit this and let's do number 2. And then we can define here in advanced settings, this should be a GET request. And we want to save this. And then here we have it, and we see the next execution should be in 15 minutes. And like this, we send a GET request every 15 minutes to this site. So this means that our worker never goes to sleep, and this works for me. So my other app, which is live and running since I think 1 week, is pretty stable and up and running, and all for free. And yeah, so this worked. Let's delete these old tweets. And yeah, that's it. I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope you learned a lot today. And if you have any questions, then please don't hesitate to write me a message. And if you enjoyed this tutorial, please subscribe to the channel and leave me a like, and see you next time. Bye.